Okay, so we've got some really interesting stuff to dig into today. You guys sent in some really fascinating material about using cultural intelligence, CQ,
Yeah.
to really change the game for customer experience or CX, especially in today's, crazy interconnected world.
Right.
It's obvious we need to go beyond just like throwing a product or service out there, right?
Absolutely.
So let's really dive deep into how businesses can connect with their customer base, especially when that customer base is so diverse.
Yeah, I think, the core idea that your sources really highlight is that cultural intelligence is about, well, it's about understanding and respecting and adapting to different cultural contexts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's less about like checking off boxes, do this, don't do that.
Right.
It's more about a fundamental shift in how we approach things.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Because in a world where customers are coming from all over the place, you can't just have a one-size-fits-all approach.
Makes sense. Yeah.
It just won't work.
No, you're totally right. And it's like you said, you got to see where they're coming from, literally, but also where
Yeah.
their values are, what the
Yeah.
traditions are, how they communicate. So that's the CQ, the cultural intelligence
Hmm.
part.
Right. It's about recognizing that today's customers, they want to feel like you get them. They want to feel seen and
Mhm.
heard
Yeah.
and valued.
Yeah, it's like they want to feel like you're speaking directly to them.
Exactly. And they want to feel like the brands they interact with
Yeah.
actually get who they are,
Yeah,
their
yeah.
background, their preferences,
Right.
all of that.
Okay, so in this deep dive, we're gonna take, what is it?
We've got like 10
10 plus 1
tips.
tips that you guys sent in, right?
Yeah.
And we're gonna break those down into actionable strategies that businesses can use.
Hmm.
Real world stuff.
Exactly. Practical stuff.
Okay, so let's jump right in.
Right.
Tip number 1. Understanding your customer's cultural background. Okay, this seems like the foundation of everything else.
It is. It is foundational.
Right.
You can't really tailor an experience if you don't know who you're tailoring it for.
Right, exactly.
And the material, it emphasizes how important it is to research your customer.
Yeah.
Like, really research their language, their traditions, values,
Mm-hmm.
and even their communication styles.
Like how they talk to each other.
Exactly. Like, how do they communicate? What's considered polite?
Yeah.
What's considered rude? All of that.
Yeah, and like you said, we're talking about all over the globe.
Exactly.
So you can't assume that what works in one place will work in another place.
Right. And the interesting thing is the why behind this. Like, why is this so important?
Okay, yeah.
And there's some research that shows that marketing messages
Mm-hmm.
that really align with a customer's cultural values,
Mm-hmm.
they can be twice as effective.
Wow, twice as effective.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a huge difference.
It is. It's huge.
All right, so practically speaking, what are we doing here?
So practically speaking, businesses need to use their customer data and
Right.
analytics
Right.
to identify, like, the cultural demographics of their customer base.
Yeah, yeah.
And your sources also talk about using surveys and focus groups.
Right.
So it's not just about making broad assumptions.
You're really trying to zero in on
You're trying to zero in.
who your customers are.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so give me an example. Like, what does this look like in the real world?
Sure. So think about a company like Amazon.
Okay.
They're global,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They don't just offer a website in multiple languages.
Right.
They tailor the content, the product recommendations, even the images they use
Oh, wow.
based on where the user is, what language they've selected.
Interesting.
So it's really sophisticated. It goes way beyond just translating the word.
Right, right.
It's about resonating with those local nuances.
Like you said, you really feel like they get you.
Exactly. You feel seen.
Okay, that's a good example. All right, let's move on to tip number 2. Training your team in cultural sensitivity.
Okay.
So no matter how good your strategy is on paper, right, it's your employees who are interacting with those customers every day.
They're the face of your brand in a
Yeah,
lot of ways.
Exactly. So if they're not equipped to handle those cultural differences, even if they don't mean to, if they make a mistake,
Yeah,
it can really damage the relationship.
absolutely. Even unintentional missteps can have a big impact.
Yeah, yeah.
So the material really emphasizes investing in cultural sensitivity training for your employees.
Okay, so how do we do that? What's the action step here?
So you want to organize workshops
Okay.
or online courses that really cover cultural awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And they address unconscious bias
Right.
and promote inclusive communication.
So you're giving your team the tools they need
Exactly, giving them the practical skills
to navigate all of that.
to navigate those tricky situations.
Okay, so let's say you do the training, right? how do you know it's actually sinking in? Like, how do you know that it's actually happening in those real-world interactions?
That's a great question, and that's where I think the Starbucks example is really helpful.
Okay.
Remember when they did that big racial bias training?
Yeah, yeah.
It highlighted how important it is to have ongoing education.
Oh, so it's not just like a one-time thing.
It's not a one-time fix, it's an ongoing commitment
Got it, got it.
to fostering those inclusive interactions with customers.
You're constantly
You're constantly learning.
learning, refreshing.
Exactly, refreshing,
Yeah.
embedding those principles into your daily practices.
So it becomes part of the culture.
It becomes part of the company culture.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to tip number 3. Adapting your communication style.
All right.
Okay, I feel like this is one of those areas where it can be really easy to get things wrong,
Absolutely.
especially when you're dealing with different languages and cultures.
It's subtle, but it's so important.
Right.
Communication styles vary dramatically across cultures.
Oh, yeah.
Some prioritize being very direct,
Mm-hmm.
getting right to the point,
Yeah.
while others value indirectness and politeness.
Right, right.
So if you don't adapt your tone, your language, the overall message,
Mm-hmm.
you can easily end up with misunderstandings
Yeah.
or even unintentionally offend someone.
Right, right.
For example, did you know that in some cultures, saying a direct no is considered very rude?
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you might have to find a more roundabout way to say it.
Interesting.
So you have to be aware of those nuances.
Oh, okay, so what's the practical takeaway here? Like, what should businesses be doing?
So the advice is to really localize your marketing campaigns.
Okay.
Make sure your customer support, everything reflects those communication preferences.
Of your target audience.
Exactly, of the
Yes.
people you're trying to reach.
Okay, but how do you even figure out what those preferences are in the first place?
That's where that research comes back in.
Okay, yeah.
You have to observe how customers in a specific region communicate.
Mm-hmm.
You can look at social media, online forums,
Right.
and partnering with local marketing experts can be invaluable.
Well,
They have that on-the-ground knowledge.
Yeah, yeah.
Think about Coca-Cola, for example.
Okay.
They have region-specific ads
Oh, like tailored to...
tailored to specific regions.
Oh, I see.
So during Diwali in India, they have festive campaigns.
That's smart.
And for Chinese New Year, they do something completely different
Oh, wow.
that shows a deep understanding
Yeah.
of those local communication styles
Right.
and those cultural nuances.
They're speaking your language.
Exactly. They're speaking your language both literally and figuratively.
Okay, I like that.
It's like to say, hey, we get you.
Right, right, right.
We understand.
All right, tip number 4. Celebrating cultural festivals and traditions. Okay. This one seems like a really good way to build those emotional connections, right?
It is. It's about acknowledging and celebrating those important cultural moments for your customers.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows that you see them as more than just consumers.
Right.
They're individuals with rich lives and identities.
Right.
And it fosters goodwill. It strengthens that connection.
Okay, so how do we do that?
So the action step here is to launch special promotions,
Okay.
create culturally relevant products,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even host events around these celebrations.
Okay.
And using social media
Yeah.
to share greetings, to share stories.
Yeah, that seems natural.
Yeah, it's a way to participate.
But how do you make it feel authentic? Like, how do you avoid it just feeling like you're trying to make a quick buck?
Right, that's the key.
Yeah.
Authenticity comes from genuine understanding and respect.
Right.
So you have to do your research. You have to understand the meaning behind these celebrations.
Okay.
For example, Nike does this really well.
Okay.
They're these limited edition sneakers
Yeah.
that are inspired by events like Black History Month or Chinese New Year, right? But the reason it works is because they often collaborate with artists and designers
Oh, so they're actually...
from those cultures.
Oh, I see. I see.
So it's not just slapping a symbol on a shoe and calling it a day.
Right, right.
It's about celebrating the culture in a meaningful way.
Okay, that's a good example.
Yeah.
All right, tip number 5. Designing inclusive products and services.
Okay.
So this goes beyond just how you talk to people,
It does.
right?
It's about what you offer.
Yeah, what you're actually putting out there in the world
Exactly. Inclusivity should be embedded in the design
of the products and services
of the
too.
products, of the services.
Okay, so what do you mean by that?
Well, think about how cultural differences might impact how usable something is,
Mm-hmm.
or how relevant it is to someone,
Yeah.
or even how appealing it is.
Okay.
For example, the color of a product can have totally different meanings in different
Oh,
cultures.
right, right.
So you have to be aware of those things.
Okay, so how do you make sure you're getting this right?
The key here is user testing.
Okay.
But not just any user testing. You need to test with diverse groups.
Oh, I see.
Get feedback from people with different cultural backgrounds.
Because they're going to tell you.
They'll tell you what works, what doesn't work.
Right.
They'll highlight potential issues
Right.
or opportunities that you might not have even thought of.
Okay, so give me an example, like a company that's doing this well.
Sure, Venti Beauty is a great example.
Okay.
Their whole thing is about inclusivity.
Right.
And they have this huge range of foundation shades.
Right,
They
right.
recognized that a lot of beauty brands weren't catering to everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
So they designed a product that really caters to a diverse range of skin tones.
And it's a statement.
It's a statement. It's a
Yeah.
statement about inclusivity right from the product itself.
They're putting their money where their mouth is.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
All right, tip number 6, localizing your CX strategy. Now, the material really stresses that this is more than just translating your website.
It is. It's much more than that.
Okay, so break it down for me.
Localization is about tailoring every aspect of the customer experience to that specific cultural context
Right.
of your target audience.
So it's not just the language.
It's not just the language.
It's everything.
It's the imagery, the pricing, the payment methods,
Wow.
the website design,
Mm-hmm.
even the customer support channels.
Right.
Because what works in one culture might be totally confusing or even frustrating in another culture.
Yeah, yeah.
So you have to think about all those things.
Okay, so what's the best way to approach this?
Partner with local experts or agencies.
Okay.
They have that deep understanding
Of the region.
of the region, of
Okay.
the preferences,
Of the culture.
the norms.
Right, right.
They can help you make sure that your strategy truly resonates.
Okay, so, like, give me a company that's doing this well.
Think about Netflix.
Okay.
They're
Yeah.
global.
Right.
They don't just translate subtitles.
Right.
They offer whole libraries of content
Yeah.
that are popular in different regions.
Oh, so they're really curating.
They're curating based on local tastes.
Interesting.
And that understanding of local preferences
Yeah.
is a big reason why they're so successful globally.
Because it feels native, right?
If it feels native, it feels like it's made for you.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
All right, tip number 7. Be mindful of cultural symbols and imagery.
Okay.
This seems like one where you can really get into trouble if you're not careful.
Yeah, this is a big one
Right.
because symbols, colors, even images that seem harmless
Mm-hmm.
can have totally different meanings
Right.
in different cultures.
Yeah.
What might be positive in one place could be offensive in another.
Right, right.
So you have to do your research.
Yeah.
You have to understand the nuances
To avoid making a mistake.
to avoid making a big mistake
Yeah, yeah.
that could damage your brand.
Okay, so what's the actionable advice here?
Test your marketing materials and your branding
Okay.
with diverse focus groups
Before you launch.
before you launch anything.
Okay, get that feedback early.
Exactly. Get
Yeah.
that feedback early, and it can save you a lot of headaches.
Right, right.
Remember that Pepsi campaign a few years ago?
Yeah, yeah.
The perfect example.
Where they kind of,
They got it wrong.
yeah,
They tried to tap into a social justice movement,
right.
but they ended up trivializing it.
Yeah, yeah.
And they got a lot of backlash.
They were tone deaf.
Exactly. It was tone deaf.
Okay, that's a good reminder.
It is.
All right, tip number 8. Fostering a culturally diverse team within your own organization.
That's a big one.
Right.
It's about recognizing that a diverse team brings so much to the table.
Mm-hmm.
They have different perspectives, different insights,
Right.
and that can really enhance your CX strategy.
Because they've lived it. Right.
They've lived it. They understand those nuances,
Right.
those sensitivities that a more homogenous team might miss.
Okay, so how do we do this? How do we build a more diverse team?
So you need to implement diversity and inclusion initiatives.
Okay.
Things like mentorship programs,
Mm-hmm.
employee resource groups.
Right.
It's about creating an environment where everyone feels valued
Yeah.
and where those different viewpoints are actually heard.
So you're really tapping into the power of those different experiences.
Exactly.
Okay, give me an example of a company that's doing this well.
Google's a good example.
Okay.
They're very committed to workforce diversity
And they really solicit
They're
feedback
from their employees
from their employees
when they're
we're-
developing products and services.
and that shows, that diversity in action,
Right, right.
leading to a better, more inclusive experience for everyone.
Okay, that's a great example.
It's proof that it works.
Okay, we're getting close to the end of our main tips here.
Okay.
Tip number 9, actively listening to customer feedback.
Important.
It seems kind of obvious, right?
It seems obvious, but it's especially important when it comes to understanding those cultural nuances.
It is, because your customers, they're the experts on their own culture.
Right.
So you need to listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
You need to understand what they're saying,
What their experiences are.
what their experiences are, what they're liking, what they're not
All
liking.
right.
And that's how you continuously improve your CX.
And keep it fresh.
Keep it fresh, keep it relevant.
Okay, so how do we do this actively listening thing?
Use surveys, use reviews,
Sure.
social media listening tools.
You've got all these different tools now
There are so many tools.
to really gather those insights.
And it's not just about collecting the data.
It's about understanding it.
It's about understanding the cultural context behind that data.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, for example, Airbnb does this really well.
Okay.
They're constantly monitoring customer feedback,
Mm-hmm.
and they're responding to it
Right.
so they can identify any issues that might be coming up
Yeah.
for travelers from different backgrounds.
Mhm.
That's smart.
And then they can address those issues.
Make sure everyone's having a good experience.
Exactly. Make it a positive and culturally sensitive experience for everyone.
All right, and finally, tip number 10, building trust through authenticity.
Authenticity. Yeah.
This one feels really important
It is.
because it seems like customers can tell when you're not being genuine.
They can absolutely tell.
Right.
In today's world, people are very aware. They can
Mhm.
see right through those superficial attempts
Right.
to engage with their culture.
So you have to be real.
You have to be real.
Right.
Authenticity is the foundation of trust,
Mm-hmm.
and that leads to long-term loyalty.
Okay, so how do we make sure we're being authentic?
So one way is to partner with cultural ambassadors or influencers,
Okay.
people who can help you connect with your target audience
Right, in a genuine way.
in a genuine way.
Okay,
They can provide insights, they can help bridge those cultural gaps.
that makes sense.
And a good example of this is Adidas.
They collaborate with local artists and athletes
Oh, yeah.
to create those culturally relevant products and campaigns.
Right, right.
So they're not just coming in from the outside,
They're part of the community.
they're becoming part of the community.
Okay, so we've covered the 10 main tips,
We have.
but we can't forget the bonus tip.
Right, the plus one.
Number 11, leveraging technology to enhance cultural intelligence.
Technology can be a huge help here.
Really?
Absolutely.
Okay, so tell me more about that.
So think about AI-powered personalization.
Okay.
It can tailor experiences based on cultural preferences.
Mhm.
And then you've got those sophisticated translation tools
Right.
that can facilitate seamless communication
Across different languages.
across different languages, different cultures.
Okay, so it's like technology is helping us to connect with those diverse audiences.
Exactly. More effectively and at scale.
Okay, so practically speaking, what are we doing?
Investing in those AI-powered tools.
Okay.
The tools that can analyze customer data and deliver personalized, culturally relevant experiences.
So it's like we're using technology to kind of boost our human understanding of culture.
Exactly. Augmenting our human understanding.
Okay, so give me an example of a company that's using technology in this way.
Think about Spotify.
Okay.
They use AI to create those personalized playlists.
Right.
But they take it a step further.
Okay.
They factor in cultural preferences.
Oh, wow.
So they're curating those playlists based on your musical tastes,
Yeah.
but also on your cultural background.
That's so smart.
So it's a really personalized experience,
Yeah.
but it's also culturally relevant.
Wow. Okay.
They're using that data to understand and cater to those individual preferences
Yeah.
within a broader cultural context.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
It's clear that cultural intelligence, the CQ,
Yeah.
it's not just a nice to have.
It's essential.
It's essential if you want to thrive in this global market.
It's the key.
Right.
It's the key to building those meaningful, memorable experiences
That resonate with everyone.
that resonate with everyone, no matter where they come from.
All right, so what's the main takeaway here?
I think the main takeaway is that it's about genuine effort.
Okay.
Customers can sense when you're really trying,
Mm-hmm.
when you're putting in the work to understand and value their culture.
It's about respect.
It's about respect. It's about authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you get it right, that's when you build trust,
Yeah.
the loyalty.
Right.
You cultivate those lasting relationships.
Which is what it's all about.
That's the goal.
Yeah. Okay, this has been a really fascinating exploration. I feel like I've learned a lot.
Me too.
And, thinking about all these examples, it really highlights how even those small cultural nuances can have a big impact
Yeah,
on how a customer sees your brand.
absolutely.
And it makes you wonder, what are we still missing?
Right.
What are those little details that we're overlooking?
Like, what about the unspoken etiquette in online interaction?
Oh, yeah.
Or how different cultures approach problem solving?
That's interesting.
Right.
Yeah. exploring those areas.
Yeah.
That could be the key
It could unlock even deeper levels of connection
with our customers.
with our customers, exactly.
Okay. I like that.
It's something to think about.
It is. It is. Thanks for taking this deep dive with me.
Thanks for having me.
It's been fun.
It has been fun.
All right. We'll see you guys next time
See you later.
on The Deep Dive.